So I have been today reading through the Reserve Bank's latest issue paper and going crazy, sort of trying to unpick their political speak. Very interesting. Has anyone else seen that come out at all?
Yeah, I took a read of it.
Yeah,
Equally as worried.
yeah. There is some interesting takeaways, and I didn't quite get a chance to finish it straight away, today. But I've been making some notes around my thoughts on it, and I think there is actually some positive sentiment in there, in the sense that it reveals the lens or the glasses through which the Reserve Bank are looking at things, and I don't think they operate at the level where they're going to obfuscate that kind of intention, and so they're quite clearly just risk averse. And there's a few little tidbits there, and I think, oh yeah, that actually gives leg room for Bitcoin as a solution, because they're trying to promote competition and innovation while also supporting well-being and social stuff and all that. And so it actually kind of fits. And so that by having clarity in the document, I think that is a positive. It's not this kind of knee-jerk ban hammer kind of stuff, which I think a lot of people kind of, you can be doom and gloom about it, but there is actually some room in there for innovation to happen. But obviously it's all lumped in with shitcoinery, so it's sort of trying to unpick that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, definitely second that.
Yeah. I don't know. Has it? Oh, sorry.
Do you think that in New Zealand the real issue will be around the climate change stuff? Because they'll say, Bitcoin's bad for the environment.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. They did reference the is it the OPTC, that White House report that's just come out in the last couple of weeks?
I'm just gonna stop my video because I'm eating and don't want that on.
Yeah. No one. Feel free to turn your video off, guys, if you want. But that OPTC report that came out recently, they referenced that, and it's like, crypto uses X amount of the US power supply, and wastes energy, and so there's a little bit of FUD in there, which they did reference, which I thought was a negative. But that said, I think there's kind of, as a separate topic, looking at some of the renewable schemes that are emerging in New Zealand, I think there is opportunity for that to slip in as a counter argument, and say, look, the likes of hydro and wind as kind of a renewable source that needs, a variable load balancing going on. So, something like that can kind of come in as an alternative.
Yeah, we just need to present the good arguments.
Yeah, well, I went up. One of the members on the Telegram group actually invited me to come up to Palmerston North to see a new wind farm that's going in between Palmerston North and Paeatua, and it was excellent to just see the scale of it and to understand how wind generation actually works and how it's different to, say, coal, and just I guess the way the electricity is generated. It requires this kind of adjustable layer. And I mean, Bitcoin mining literally is the solution to that. It just fits in there. And I mean, that's quite a high level operation. So I can see there being arguments there, but it kind of just needs to come together as a coherent argument, and be presented in the right way.
I hope you're right.
Yes. Yes.
I hope that they're not malicious towards Bitcoin. My assumption is that they are, personally.
Yeah, I mean, my TLDR on it was that it's a pretty lukewarm document. There is no knee-jerk reactions. There are some misconceptions, and what I'm really looking for from it is it's still a request for feedback. None of this is law or anything yet, and so it's a request for feedback. So there is an opportunity, and I don't know who this will be, but there is an opportunity for pushback and kind of advocacy and actually information. They talk about layer 2 technology, but they don't talk about Lightning. They don't understand perhaps what it could mean for retail customers, so there's still room for that kind of educational side. And so building those relationships, I think, would be really important, here in Wellington, and trying to kind of talk through it. But yeah.
Who do you need to be in contact with? That's an interesting point, because I'm from the UK and I'm over here for 6 months. And I just thought it'd be a good idea to jump on. But who is it that you need to talk about these things to?
Well, they're pretty open about it. They like literally there's like a couple of people and an email address, and you can book a time to go and talk to them at the Reserve Bank, right? And then more broadly, there's other kind of overlapping government organizations, Commerce Commission and different people who kind of all have this like Venn diagram of who's involved. But I feel like the Reserve Bank is kind of the main driver. They have the mandate for supervising this kind of framework and what the future of money means. And they're just down the road. I walk past it every day. So it's, I don't think it's an insurmountable thing, but it does require some coordination, I think, and clarity and intent. We don't want to just go at this sort of randomly as individuals. I think that there is room for sort of quite a nuanced approach.
Yeah, I think talking them through how Lightning works will be valuable because like a Lightning routing node and a Lightning liquidity provider, that's something that regulators are going to want to look at, even though not really sure how much they're going to be able to do about it, but they need to understand it.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically my conclusion from that Reserve Bank document was there is basically the conclusion is they want to put together a monitoring framework and monitoring as in kind of like quite a big, broad thing. And I mean, this is a lot of fluff, but basically going to them and saying, hey, look, we've done this trial program, we've done this thing in Wellington, we've got 5 retailers using it. This is what it's looking like. This is how it works this is the benefit for the customer, and tailoring that with, I think, discussion around retail payments and surcharges and how, you get, slammed with these fees when you try and use PayWave and Visa. I think those could kind of go together really well and be like, well, actually, we've got this like thing and it's instant final settlement, minimal fees, and it's open source and easily accessible by anyone. It kind of fits their narrative, and that's what they're looking for. So like, we're kind of, that's why I see an opportunity to really sell that. Brandon, welcome. We're just talking about the Reserve Bank Legacy Institute. Cool. We had a few more people join. So today I thought it would be good. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am interested in recording this and kind of sharing this discussion for people who couldn't be here. But I would love to go through, around the group, if anyone sort of had anything in the last week or last few weeks that they've come across or anything they've been working on that I'd like to share, and just sort of general thoughts or points of discussion, if anyone wants to volunteer.
Who's volunteering? I'll volunteer. I got 2 things I was working on. I showed you guys one of them. As you guys know, I've been trying to just play with the existing merchant, payment acceptance tools and trying to understand those a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this knowledge, but my intent originally was, I said this in the channel a long time ago, like I had a moment a year ago or so where I realized that I really wanted to spend some time trying to make this Bitcoin thing happen and do what I can. And, my avenue for that, at the moment is to learn as much as I can and share that knowledge. And, the tools are there now. And, it's as you can see when people come on, it's there's a bridge from, understanding the basics of Bitcoin to holding your own keys to, and I have the luxury to have, done that part a good bit ago. And so I'm playing around with these things and trying to understand them. And it's honestly quite amazing how straightforward that is. That video I showed you guys of, you guys have seen a million of these things on Twitter or whatever, but, there's nothing more than an Android device with an NFC device connected to it. Like it's $110 and you just put a regular Bitcoin payment app on it and away you go. So the tools are there and it's great. I set up my own bulk card service on one of my nodes. And so far I've been playing around with paying myself, but these are things that, we need more people to be able to do, around this table or around this, video screen at least. So you can, when you're talking to, whomever it is, you're I talked to the guy that owns my gym the other day about accepting Bitcoin. Like, when we have those conversations, like, being prepared to just show them the basics and show them how is part of what we need to be able to do. So that's been a lot of fun. I think the other thing that I've been working on, in quotes, as I've been playing with that Cashew app, I posted a little bit about it in the chat, but haven't talked about it too much. But it's something I'm actually really excited about. So if you guys don't know what Cashew is, it's a Chaumian eCash implementation. So this is a technology that was developed a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly, but I want to say it's like in the late 80s or something. And been part of the cypherpunk dream for quite a while. Fediment, if you've heard of that, is part of it, is an implementation of that. It's federated. Cashew is a simpler version, but it is a way that you can create a wallet that's got private tokens sitting behind it, behind a Lightning node. So you can theoretically, to your friends and family, provide them with a private Lightning wallet that even me as the node runner can't really see what's happening. If I've got 20 people using that service, all I can see is the money going in and out of my node, but I have no idea who it's from, who it's going to. They can make payments amongst each other, and all of that is completely blind to me. And I see that as one of the many potential ways that Lightning scales to multiple users. That's in terms of onboarding, like, that's a really simple way to do it. So I can, as I did in the channel, Rob took me up on it. I can just post, I posted 500 sats in the channel. He grabbed it, and he had in seconds, he had a wallet with 500 sats in it, and he could do with it as he pleased. And I had nothing to see what was going on with it, except for he posted it back in the channel, so I knew what he did with it. Anyway, really excited about that. It's been fun to play with. Anyway, that's what I've been looking at these days.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else been working on anything in the Bitcoin space the last couple of weeks, or anything you've found interesting or you've discovered, encountered, that you want to share?
Well, leading on from that, but did somebody else want to jump in?
No, you go first.
Okay, thank you. Leading on from that, I was in Costa Rica up until a couple of weeks ago, actually. And over there, they've been using, they've got a Bitcoin jungle wallet, which is based on the El Salvadorian Bitcoin beach wallet. And I was using that. I downloaded it and started using it. And you're absolutely right that it's an amazing piece of equipment to use. It's really good fun. And it's amazingly quick. I mean, it's like a blink of an eye, how quick the transactions go through. My positivity about this is that this all came about from a bunch of young guys that got together and they promoted it themselves. And there are quite a number of people already using the Bitcoin Jungle app, which is great for the Americans over there, which are struggling to get the US dollar converted into the I've forgotten what the currency is there. It's just ridiculous. Whatever it is. So no, I can't think of what it is. So it's a great way of them to be able to maneuver money around, which is quite difficult over there at the moment. So it seems to me as though Central America's pretty strong in bringing the Bitcoin jungle through, the Bitcoin wallet through. And I believe that Brazil have recently just jumped on board with it as well. So it's all very, very positive how this is all going. And yeah, I was really excited to see when I got off all these small little market holders and coffee shops having the Bitcoin sign up. So yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a bit of a fun experience, in quotes, with Bitcoin. It's not really something I did, but I've been going through job interviews for a particular finance company that I won't mention the name of. Everything was fine. I was going to get the job, and then at the very end, you're not allowed buying and selling Bitcoin while you work here, and you have to disclose exactly how much Bitcoin you have. And I'm like, no.
Whoa.
Was that in the contract? Oh,
Like, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
I really wanted the job too. So it'd be nice to. I wonder if anyone has any insight into if there's a way around that.
Were you? I'm not sure about the situation now, but would you have been in a position to be like, can we just remove this clause from the contract, or you couldn't negotiate that at all?
That's
or?
what I've left it with that, and said, and it's been. They said they'd get back to me, and it's been half a week, so just waiting.
Because I think it's pretty, depending on the role. I mean, it's being able to push back. I think New Zealanders don't really do this, but basically you just go through and cross out the stuff you don't like in the job interview and say, look, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Basically did that. So.
Yeah. So I mean, well, good luck. Hopefully they take it off, and then maybe for future people they take it off as well. That would be a good outcome.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm just really curious where this rule comes from. Their argument is that they want to avoid inside trading, which I'm like, well, that you don't even buy and sell Bitcoin yourself, so how's that going to do anything? And so I'm wondering, they're really stupid rules. So I'm thinking maybe it's coming from the government or something, or I don't know.
Could just be like a paranoia thing, like the higher ups might just be worried about future regulation, and so they're just trying to over what's the word?
A chilling effect, kind of overcompensate.
You over comply with what you think might be some possible regulations, just to make sure you don't fall on the bad side. Because with regulation, kind of a lot of people don't think of this. If you fall, there's always a risk for a business that if you fall afoul of a regulation, then you kind of run into a higher regulatory risk in future. And you just don't want to do that because then it just increases your costs, even if you haven't done anything wrong, because then you just have to disclose more and spend more time on it. Yeah, it's big risk.
Could be that, and they have a really great public image, and that's what they're all about. So
makes a lot of sense.
Anyway.
Interesting. That's cool. Thank you. Anyone else got anything to share?
Yeah, I've been working on kind of keeping tabs on RGB, which is not sure if you guys have read much about it. A lot of it goes on over my head, but from what I can understand, it's a layer 2 on Bitcoin, works over Lightning, I believe, and it allows, well, for the end user, it allows us to kind of make arbitrary tokens over Lightning, kind of like Taro does, but it also enables smart contracts. And so, kind of on the suggestion of one of my friends who's a VC, he was kind of talking last time I met him about like privacy and stable coins and zero knowledge proofs and those kind of cool things. So I was like, well, yeah, okay, let's do some research on like how stable coins work now, what kind of stable coins are available, what smart contracts are being used for right now, and see what might be valuable or possible on RGB. Because kind of like, I think I mentioned this last meetup, kind of the last generation of shitcoins was kind of the most insidious in my opinion, because they were kind of, back when I started Bitcoin back in 2017, the shitcoins were very much like, oh, we're a better Bitcoin, so you can spend us faster, or they were like, oh, we're a better Ethereum, you can do whatever the fuck Ethereum does, but faster or cheaper or whatever. And that was kind of, it seemed a bit more innocent, whereas the ones nowadays are just like, we're a dog token and you like tell us that you're going to hold the dog token with someone else, and then they'll give you another token which is going to be worth more in the future because they're going to airdrop another token on top. It seems a lot more insidious now in some ways. But anyway, so my whole point is that if we can find those kind of nuggets of useful things in smart contracts and in stable coins, whatever there is, if there is any, and bring that to natively Bitcoin on RGB, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So is that RGB or is?
Yeah, it's RGB.
Yeah. Is that still quite early though? It's like,
real early. So
yeah.
they've just finished their like, what do you call it? Like all the tooling and stuff, so that smart people can make cool things with it. They're releasing a wallet. I know it's an alpha at the moment, and you can you can kind of make NFTs or whatever, you know, if you want to, just to play around at the moment on the RGB thing.
Yeah, no, I've had my eye on it as well. I did try and investigate it, but it seems still a little bit like Lightning. There is more resources out there for Lightning, but it's kind of like, you know, well, where do you start as a noob? And one of these ideas that a lot of the development that happens in shitcoin, it kind of happens and explodes and dies, but then the best pieces of that end up rolling into Bitcoin layer 2, layer 3. I think is really positive. We can sort of see, kind of take it real slow and see how things unfold. Because there's definitely use for it.
Does that mean that Ethereum literally has no use in the long run? Like Bitcoin can do everything Ethereum does.
Yes. Well, I mean,
I thought so.
I think one of the things that, like, you know, like I said, I've been around for a little while, but in 2017, I played around with all kinds of shitcoins, and you know, I was interested in the ideas around smart contracts and what they were trying to do. And I think the realization that changed for me was the realization that, you know, they got there by skipping a step, that, you know, money was the important part, that without that, it was doing money right was the important part, that to do everything else. And when you skip that step, you may get to smart contracts faster. And getting there on Bitcoin is harder. And that's what we're seeing. You know, in addition to RGB, there's, you know, I know this because, well, I've heard these guys talk on various podcasts before. There's people working on DLCs, which is a discrete log contract, which is a, you know, it's a you know, not quite smart contract layer, but it gives you the ability to do contracts on Bitcoin with oracles and everything else that you see in other places. You know, and you know, I just tried. Somebody asked a question the other day. I made a list of all the things you can do that are smart contracty in Bitcoin and Lightning, and the list is longer than you think. You know, but it's harder. And it's harder because, you know, Bitcoin didn't sacrifice on security, and it didn't sacrifice on, you know, it didn't sacrifice on censorship resistance. It kept those things in place, and, you know, to get to where, you know, all those other platforms are going was necessarily going to be harder. It was going to happen on layer 2s and layer 3s, and those things are coming into place now. It's really cool to see. But when you skip a step and the foundational layer is no longer money, you got a problem.
So long term, it's just a matter of time then, because I'm guessing long term, you're saying it's difficult now to get those things working, but long term, I'm supposing that it's just going to be just as easy as working on Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Taro and RGB and DLCs, and, you know, things are being built around that space, and it's, like I said, it is harder because you have, you know, the relative you know, ossification or the relative rigidness of the fundamental layer of money, right? That means you have to follow rules. You have to have proof of work being the foundation. Like those things, you know, make it harder to, you know, do whatever you want with money. But there's a lot happening, and, you know, in the next, you know, 5 years, I think we'll, you know, be free a lot of those limitations, just based on what we're seeing right now.
Cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the idea of money as well, I sort of tend to scratch that out and put the word value in there. I feel like that kind of more broadly encompasses everything here, because the value of having, you know, a smart contracting system for property ownership or something like that, which is built upon the security layer, you know, the security of Bitcoin, that's not necessarily just money in the narrow sense of buying and selling things. It's the broader sense of kind of digital value, and I'm beginning to see that kind of paradigm shift. And I don't think we fully have the language to describe this yet. But the way I've been telling people is it's hyper global and hyper local at the same time. And so I can sell and buy Bitcoin, or I can buy things, in real life with Bitcoin or with sats. But then I can also use these microtransactions for validating an email, and so that it's not spam, or I can use a one sat, fee for some kind of online service. And it's more like it's not just money. I think calling a tip on Stacking News money, I think is not quite right. I think it is value, it's that value for value. And that being completely synchronized with one system, I really see that being the paradigm shift, which we can't quite articulate at the moment because we haven't had it before. But all value will flow through with sats, digital and real life, and I think that's going to be the game changer.
I had two thoughts about what you were saying there. One thing is I want to be clear about what I said about like smart contracts and things like that is I think there's a lot of things that the various crypto platforms have tried that are completely worthless to actually do in the real world. I think the idea in the long run, for example, that you could connect, physical ownership of a home to the blockchain is, I think that's a dream. I think eventually you're going to need, laws and, police in the actual real world to enforce, those smart contracts. Like, the idea that you can affect that sort of change in the real world, I think is a pipe dream, and, is a place where a lot of ICOs came from, places where, the smart execution of a contract, one, was either never needed, or two, was never actually going to affect change, and I do think money is the place where foundationally that is the place where change was necessary and good. And the second thing was, I don't think we should be afraid of, well, not necessarily what you had said there was about, you were expanding the idea about what Bitcoin is rather than being afraid of the term money. But I think the term money is important for us to all talk about and understand, and especially when in the Bitcoin context, what is money and why the properties that Bitcoin has are important, I think are foundational to it's a hard ask to get people to look into what is money and try to build an idea of that for themselves in a way that gets them somewhere. But I think if you want to create Bitcoiners, I think foundationally having people understand that their money is a representation of how the value they've provided in their life to either a business or creating their own business is that money is a representation of that time and something they can trade for someone else's time. And money was always a translation between those two pieces of value. If I'm creating, if I'm growing, raising chickens and you're creating widgets, how do we trade those things? Well, we use money as an intermediary because, we need to understand, what the price of my chickens are and what the price of your widgets are. And that tool is a foundational communication layer that we all live on and we operate in every day. And we use it to coordinate, the billions of people in the world. And that coordination mechanism is broken. So that idea of money and people understanding that it is a tool we use to coordinate ourselves and understand value. Money is that tool. And that's, I think it's, we had someone in the chat a while ago suggest that we stay away from the idea of talking about Bitcoin as money entirely and talking about it as a technology only. And using the Bitcoin tools to transfer value, and rather than thinking about it as money. But I think the fixing the money aspect is fundamental to people understanding they're being stolen from, and the value you're creating can't be stored and it can't really be transferred because the prices on either side are misunderstood because it's all broken. And getting to a place where we have good money means that, there's no distortion between the value I'm creating and the value you're creating. We can trade freely. I think it's an important piece to keep in the conversation, even if it's not the first thing we lead with, because it is a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, and for adding to that. And I do agree. I mean, I think I said the property thing, but I mean, on reflection, that's not really the point of all of this. It's, as you say, it is the money piece. I guess what I'm looking at though is the kind of longer term paradigms that are changing here, and often come back to how social media or the internet or these other technologies kind of changed behavior and our way of engaging with things. And I often think, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have considered, tapping the heart button, on a photo. It kind of wasn't necessarily a function that we had when we engaged with things. And what I'm looking at is, stacking news in particular, I really love it. And I love how the like button has been replaced by a value transfer. I'm sending 10 sats when I click the like button, and that microtransaction aspect of it, that's kind of, I guess, where I'm seeing it at kind of start to bleed in. Things that have previously been unmonetized or, just unaccessible, that kind of microtransaction side, seeing that bleed into all aspects of our digital engagement or real life engagement, charity, all sorts of things, which currently I think we're kind of walking around with these like straitjackets on with something like charity. Like how do you donate to a good cause? You got to go through these fiat rails. You lose so much along the way that it doesn't even get to the destination. But being able to directly impact change with the coffee grower in Ethiopia, because you can send it straight to their wallet, stuff like that, really, I can see that being super transformational, and kind of like one of these kind of second order effects. I don't know, but the way we see value transfer, as you say, kind of, not seeing it bleed off, because it's like ice in your hand at the moment, especially with high inflation. It's like it's just going away. I think there will be some social. I'm really interested in the social outcomes of that, and perhaps how we are engaging with each other in the future.
I think talking about money is a great way forward, and teaching people what's actually going on in the monetary world, because when they start understanding what's been happening for generations and how the manipulation in the markets have affected their future wealth and the wealth of their children, then they will start getting a better idea of the value of Bitcoin, and that it actually has a true store of value, whereas the fiat money at the moment has none whatsoever. It's not backed by anything. And when people start understanding that, then I think they're more inclined to open their minds to Bitcoin. And it is something that I truly believe is going to take off. It can't not, because at the moment it's the only real asset that has all and above of gold, which is the reserve money, and always has been, but it even goes beyond gold because of its movability, because that there'll only ever be 21 million
21 million
Bitcoin ever mined. So it's a true store of value. And when people can start understanding all of that and the history of money and how it's been manipulated, then I think you're going to get people that will be, it would just shift their paradigm, and they'll start seeing it in a different way. And we are talking about a new technology that so many people can't even comprehend. And for me, this has been like a spiritual journey where I've really had to expand my consciousness and see beyond what my reality was and how it can become, and how Bitcoin can be a part of it. And when I started investing in Bitcoin, it wasn't because I was investing. It was an investment that I was making. But the more I went down the rabbit hole, the more I realized it was like a bait and switch, that suddenly I thought that it was an investment. And then I realized the full potential of it, and how it can, how it will change people's lives, and it will put everybody on the same layer of the playing field. So instead of at the moment where there's a number of people that are able to print money and be in control of what's going on, it will be a level playing field where everybody's coming in have the same rules to play with and have the same abilities to make money. You know, that it isn't that there are certain people that are governing all of this, that it's spread out, and it's an even playing field, and it's going to be banking the unbanked. I mean, there is so much potential there. And with regard to the energy, the resources that somebody was saying that they're taking, yes, that there is a lot of output out there that Bitcoin is very energy consuming, but in fact, because it's a great thing, because it costs so much money to mine Bitcoin, the miners are having to go and find alternative measures to enable them with cheaper measures. So natural resources in order for them to be able to utilize, to carry on mining at a reasonable rate. And if we look at El Salvador, who were the first country, I don't know where you all are with this, but the first country to have taken Bitcoin on as their local currency, they've been talking about using the volcanoes, the energy of the volcanoes, to help mine the Bitcoin. And I mean, people are just finding new ways of being able to utilize alternative energy. So in fact, I see it as a positive thing.
No, thank you.
I think there's two different aspects to Bitcoin. There's the theological or philosophical side of it, and there's also which realistically 90% of people won't care about. They don't care that their money is broken. They don't care where it comes from. And the other aspect to Bitcoin, which is important, is where its uses and where it can be utilized effectively. And as you were saying, Maxine, you were looking at initially as an investment. And sometimes that's people's effective utilization. And I think where we will capture the most people is where they can see it, an effective utilization for it. They may well then understand the theological or underlying aspects of fiat versus Bitcoin, but I think that will be secondary to them seeing what I would call a real world use for it.
Yeah, and I think adding to that, in New Zealand in particular, we're very sheltered and naive, I believe, to the way the world is. And I've got a little thing, I don't know if everyone can see this, but my friend, one of my best friends, is from Zimbabwe, and this is a $500 million piece of paper that he gave me from 2008. And you know, Zimbabwe used to be the breadbasket of Africa, as they say, and a lot of things happened, and then stagflation took place. And New Zealand hasn't experienced that in any real degree since the Great Depression, and even then it wasn't as bad as other places. And so I think we've become very dependent and naive and limited in our thinking about what's possible in the negative. You know, when everything's good, it's all good, but when it's not good, it's when everything's good, it's kind of, yeah, you're still getting your value stolen, but it's not like we're in Zimbabwe. And I think that's the big wake up call, is looking at what's going on with inflation, the New Zealand dollar, all of that from a local perspective. I think that's going to cause a lot of questions to be asked. Especially as an export-dependent country. What does it mean to simultaneously sort of destroy our ability to export through restrictions and kind of regulation? At the same time, businesses' ability to actually do stuff is limited. And the value of the New Zealand dollar is you know, what does it even mean? I feel like there's going to be a lot of that in the next couple of years, which will, you know, Bitcoin kind of presents an alternative view for that. But yeah, definitely, I think there's a naivety within New Zealand, which leads to perhaps a reluctance to change, which is a challenge.
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind, like you were talking about, Zimbabwe, and there's actually been, quite a bit of it's sort of hard to tell how big of a deal these things are, but you've seen a lot on Bitcoin Twitter about, developments in Africa, and Jack Dorsey was just down there at a conference and everything else. But one thing's for sure is that those people in a broad sense don't need to be told about the value of better money.
They get
right?
it. Yeah.
They understand it because they lived through it, and they've been through a situation where the value that they've saved from their lives was destroyed. So it's that philosophical or the idea of what money is something if they don't natively understand it, is something they're readily acceptable to, right? They understand it. New Zealand is different. The US where I'm from is different. The US has a bit more going on as far as Bitcoin is concerned, but that's just because of the number of people that have been around longer doing it longer. But the truth is, like, I actually spend a lot of time thinking about what the need will be, right? Like in my job, I'm a product guy, right? So my job is to sort of try to understand, fundamentally, how to, reach people and create something that they actually want, and then they want it not necessarily because it has the right features or whatever it is because they can see that it actually fixes a problem that they have, right? They have a need, there's something that wastes their time, there's something that they value that they're not getting, and you create you're attempting to create something that they that solves one of those problems for them. And the honest truth is, in most Western countries, that problem is hard for most people to see, unless you're spending a lot of time, talking to the right people in the right places and, having the right conversations. You don't develop a sense that something's broken. You're going about your day doing your job and spending money. Like, you're not thinking about the monetary system, and you're not thinking about those kinds of things on a daily basis. So for most people, the sense that they have a problem is something that they're not, it's going to be difficult for them to see, even now with high inflation, even now with the New Zealand dollar going the wrong way. Like, I think a lot of people have the sense that it's a temporary situation, that's, things will get right. It's COVID and whatever else. Like, the sense that they have a problem is actually one of the things that I spend the most time thinking about. Like, because I believe in Bitcoin, but like, I think that I'm not one of these people that thinks it's inevitable. Like, I think we need to make it happen. But in Western countries, it is difficult to see, what those problems are. I think with merchants, I think there's bits and pieces there. We can talk them through, how they can, avoid chargebacks and fees and whatever else. With a regular, person, spending money and holding money, like, it's much more difficult to see how we can enumerate those problems for them in a way that they're seeking, right? They have to know they have a problem before they go to try to fix it. And that's one of the challenges I think we have.
Yes.
Yeah, and sorry to jump in there, Cody. I like the design you did there for that idea about onboarding merchants to Bitcoin, keeping it simple and making it straightforward and just getting to the practicalities of it rather than sort of going all evangelical and trying to teach Bitcoin. I think it's important people learn about Bitcoin, but I think it's really high energy, right? High intensity. And so when you teach somebody, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. They need to know what money is, and nobody knows what money is. And I sure as hell didn't know what money was before I found out about Bitcoin.
Yeah. I if it's okay, I would like to perhaps share that and talk that through with the group.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, would that be okay with you?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, sure. So can everyone see this okay? Is that coming through?
Yep.
Yeah. So just to add to what Rob was saying, so this and you've kind of pulled this out of me, Brandon, as well, just with your discussion. But I very much feel that within New Zealand, so taking the hyperlocal approach, right? So globally, you know, there's great stuff happening everywhere, but as you say, there's a reticence within New Zealand. You know, FPOS kind of works. You know, it's only 7, 8, 9% inflation. You know, who cares? Housing prices, that's out of our control. You know, there's a lot of smoke screens and stuff that basically means that the average person is not aware. You know, this isn't something in their daily life, right? And so I see an opportunity for us to kind of coordinate a little bit and build some strategies around how to, in a couple of different ways, get Bitcoin into the hands of the people without them having to go through the orange pill experience directly, because I think that's something that, you know, that's for the 1% of the population. You know, it's you know, pioneers of the internet. You know, it wasn't everybody, and even very recently, you know, there was a time when people, I don't need a website, I don't need the internet. You know, there's always this kind of late majority. And so one of the benefits, though, is because this is a monetary tool, this is it's a system as well. You don't have to necessarily believe in it to use it. If it's just presented and it's better, and you can situate it within the market and the needs, it can kind of just work. And so, like, what I'm trying to get at here is I see an opportunity to build within New Zealand a bit of advocacy. And this is a little bit of what I do with my work here in Wellington. You know, I kind of talk with the kind of government type people, you know, like I understand the kind of language they use and the way they do things. And that's why I was reading that Reserve Bank paper today and trying to just situate where innovation could sit in a way that works for them. Because if we come at it with the ideology, it just isn't going to fly. And even though we all believe that, I think we need to sort of water it down to a actionable, clean cut kind of a thing. And so that's my idea for this Lightning Network .nz, which I've brought the domain for. And really, this is early days, and I'm really keen to share this with everyone for feedback. But basically, what I want to present is Lightning, not Bitcoin. And I think the reason for that is just everyone I talk to, Bitcoin, unfortunately, has such a negative connotation that you're already on the back foot when you start talking about it. But even, no one really understands Lightning. The layer 2 is mentioned by the Reserve Bank, and some of the limitations of Bitcoin are mentioned, but they don't talk about the possibilities of overcoming those limitations by, you know, in terms of speed and scalability by using Lightning. And so I see an opportunity to really sell this, you know, the lowest fees, contactless payment, and instant settlement for Kiwi businesses. And kind of the work Brandon's doing, you know, really talk about Lightning in this quite holistic way and very simple. You know, it's kind of Trojan horsing it, I guess you could say, but you know, it's instant settlement. It's, you know, the FPOS network, you know, it's great. It got launched in New Zealand. We're a digital society, but, you know, it's no longer good enough. You know, there's this alternative. And so we can kind of situate it alongside FPOS as a contender that's more innovative and better for the consumer. And this looks really good from a regulatory perspective, because there's just been a couple of acts come out from the government. So the new Retail Payments Act came out in July. And that really clearly kind of opens the floor for innovation to come into the payments network. New Zealanders pay quite high fees for point of sale. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, 25 cents here and there for surcharges to pay with PayWave. It's like, what's going on? And I think coming at it from that angle, basically you're sort of, you're kind of just slipping it in as an alternative that sits alongside the FPOS machine, no worries. But people start using it. They start seeing it there and they think, oh, what's this? And they don't have to necessarily go through the ideology straight away, and they just start using it. And it's a bit like Uber or Airbnb. I remember when I first discovered those, I was like, man, no way. And I was a bit closed-minded to it, but then you actually use it and you're like, man, this is way better. And so what I'm looking at is really combining this as a website, as a tool that we can go to people with and say, hey, look, we got FPOS, here's Lightning, it's an alternative. What makes Lightning better? It's fast, it's secure, it's almost free because it's open and non-proprietary, and kind of really craft the language, which I'm still working on at the moment. But really kind of clean it up. It's not some like DIY website that some person's thrown up. It's like, it's a legit thing, you can see it in action. Here it is, what we're about. We're an advocacy group, blah, blah, we're able to talk to this. I'm able to go and book a meeting with the Reserve Bank as part of this future of money thing, and actually I'll sit down with them and say, hey, let me talk you through this. And I feel like that's a role that I've sort of, I don't know, I feel really attracted to that role to kind of communicate this. And ultimately, I know that, as Brandon says, it's not inevitable that this will actually take off in New Zealand, and we might end up being like the laggards. And so by actually kind of jumping the gun, being a bit more proactive about this, having some insights, having some reference material, and saying, hey, look, here's a white paper on the ability of Lightning to really help reduce fees and make New Zealanders' lives better. And then that starts getting referenced in the material, and we can actually start actively shaping the narrative, which perhaps in the United States or bigger countries, you'd struggle to do that. But I believe it's I'm 1 or 2 steps away from these people. They're not that they're just down the road sort of thing. So it's not impossible for us to engage with them. And just sort of finally, one of the initiatives I'm really interested in is running a pilot program. And I'd love to collaborate with Brandon on this as well. If we can get a few of the units that you're working on, and really kind of quite, not just sort of like, hey, do you want to give this a go? It's actually go and quite officially book a meeting with some key retail businesses and say, hey, do you want to try this for 3 months? And we kind of see the usage, direct Bitcoiners to those locations and just sort of see what the reaction's like, kind of do a bit of, A/B testing, what's working, what's not working. And then that can be kind of put into a report. It's all very kind of government-esque, kind of, it is a little bit of fair thinking, but it kind of enables us to talk that language and kind of start getting an inroads. And I feel like that is, get started, get in touch, it's the orange pill. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts on that or any feedback.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, Connie. I love it. I love the idea.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. We need to sort of take it to them in a way that speaks the language they're used to. And if that looks a bit fair, even because it's sort of like, you go to a job interview, you dress up in a suit and tie, doesn't matter really what you're going for, kind of thing. You've got to look respectable, and this does, and it's sort of it's presented in the same way that you'd expect a payment provider, fintech provider to do it. So yeah, I really like the concept and the idea of like the good news down the bottom. I've got to admit, I didn't look at that before. That's really good. The fact that you've got massive Lightning network capacity, brilliant. Trial kicks off. Some like you say, the idea. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I think that one problem is, one thing that you mentioned at the start was getting rid of Bitcoin and just having Lightning there. I don't know how I feel about that. I can see why you came up with that idea, and I like it. You kind of sort of Trojaning the Bitcoin in there, calling it Lightning. But technically it is still Bitcoin, really. And
maybe not.
I see what you mean. Bitcoin has the negative connotation for some people, depending on what kind of news they read, which I guess if they're reading mainstream news, maybe it's generally a negative opinion.
Well, probably
I'm on board with you portraying it as Lightning, because you're right, that does get over a lot of negative connotations, and it is the Lightning layer that we are promoting for resolving these particular challenges.
Yeah, the analogy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think the place for the place for Bitcoin is probably more for those wanting to explore a bit more in depth what lies behind this thing that has been called Lightning. How do I know it's actually, reliable, blah, 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 which gives an opportunity to sell the Bitcoin story in a positive way. But I agree that it shouldn't be front and center.
Yeah. My intention here, and I think of this as kind of like it's quite strategic, and it's a little bit hard because I'm kind of just by myself here in Wellington doing it right now, but I'd love to connect with people a bit more and really like brainstorm this thing, because I think approaching it naively, Bitcoin is freedom. Yeah, it is. And I totally agree. But to get it over the line with, in terms of some of the regulatory stuff that is coming on the horizon, which will slow down or speed up adoption in New Zealand, we kind of need to angle it and understand the opponent that we're talking, or not necessarily the opponent, the person that we're dealing with on the other end. And I think with Bitcoin, the FUD, the negative connotations are quite overwhelming. And so it's like when FPOS came in to New Zealand, I really liked that case study, and I believe that we can copy that. Basically, the way it rolled out was to the petrol stations. So it was Cash Society, and then 1989 they brought in the FPOS to the gas stations, and that was like a reserve bank and the banks worked together to do that, and it was like this kind of public-private partnership. It really went well, great success, and now New Zealand is fully digital FPOS, 90% of transactions. So kind of taking that approach and saying, well, look, there's this alternative. We don't talk about the Swift network. We talk about, the layers on top. We're not talking about the Bitcoin. That's golden. That's always going to exist. It's the base layer of everything here. But in terms of getting people onto it, because if they're using Lightning, then they're Bitcoiners, and we don't have to make them Bitcoiners. They become Bitcoiners. And I think that's kind of the angle I want to go for, is like, we've got, MPs coming to these meetings with the Lightning Network thing. We're going and talking to high level people, and they're touching it. And then the more they touch it, the more kind of hooks we get in. I think the easier, or the less they're going to go after weaker targets. They're going to go after the stable coins and the shit coins, and that's good for us.
I'm a bit of two minds on this as well.
Yeah.
I think I don't have a problem selling things, right? I think it's important that we think about who we're talking to, and with that website, with that message, we're talking to merchants. We're talking about, we're talking about selling a better payment network, and that's fundamentally Lightning. So I think selling it isn't a problem, but we can't be willing to do, if there's a line to draw, it's like, let's not pretend it's something that it's not, right? And ultimately,
absolutely,
we have to have conversations about this. First question, if this is an open network that nobody owns, how do I know I can trust it? And you're gonna have to answer that question with Bitcoin.
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah,
it's right there. It's the next question, and it's gonna have to be something that we address. And probably as part of the first click, like FAQ, how does Lightning work? How do I trust it? Those are going to be the first questions, and we're going to have to answer it with it. It works because it's underlying it is the biggest, most secure decentralized network of computers. Securing a monetary system. We're going to have to start going through that in order to get to where we want.
I do agree. And I guess my design approach, so this is, I've designed this, but it's definitely early days. And that's why I want to have this conversation, because, I agree. Maybe there is a room to slip it in. It's not in a bold heading. It's just maybe a little bit in the description, but I agree. I think. And
frankly, for merchants, for the people you're talking to here, you've made a front page that they care about. That's what we should do, right?
Yes.
So we're speaking to them. We should present, make the presentation that tells them why they should care about this. And someone who cares is going to ask the first question, though, and we just need to be prepared to answer that, and that's all right.
I would situate it a little bit differently, though. I don't think the Bitcoin or the merchant is the primary target here. I think we can go and talk to them already, right? We can talk to cafes and bars and say, hey, do you want to give it a go? This provides legitimacy to be able to do that kind of more, I guess, as a more of like at scale. But the real target for this, I think, is media and government and, Reserve Bank. That they need. Yeah, there's a bit of a smokescreen required, I think, and we need to strategize on what that looks like. But going to them, talking about Lightning, it's like there's, what is Lightning? It's hard to even find info about Lightning, to be honest. That a bureaucrat could actually digest, because it's quite technical, It's like,
I still find myself surprised when I search for Bitcoin things, and the thing I was actually looking for is the 25th result. So
yeah. So the goal here is sort of a resource that's like, I'm part of this. Here I am. I'm a legit person. The merchant, I think, will be a bit easier. There's another page that I've designed that's kind of like Get Started, which is based on what Rob designed for the Accept Bitcoin. How to get Wallet of Satoshi and how to get up and running. That's actually easy. I think that's like, here's this machine or here's Wallet of Satoshi. But it's the kind of the bureaucratic engagement, which I think is a little bit more difficult, and we need to really strategize and get our talking points straight so that we know exactly the answers to the tough questions.
It needs faces behind it. real people.
Yeah. So and more I'm feeling like that is one of my roles perhaps is to take that on. So I'm sort of at a bit of a crossroads in terms of my career, but that's something I'm interested in doing. I think it could work. Welcome, Paul.
That's sort of something that I was going to suggest too. I mean, I don't know how things work up there. So as far as the people you're trying to reach in government, but you know, blockchain New Zealand, you know, the New Zealand tech, you know, group, it's not going to help us out with this. Well, maybe they will, but probably not. Do we need an actual advocacy group? Do we need something with a committee and a, you know, an agenda and a strategy and a, you know,
Well, that's a couple of things. So sorry, guys, just to follow up to that. So I agree. I think there's room for an actual advocacy group, and I think with some objectives and kind of clear things, which it's also a powerful vehicle, because when someone does something which could be taken the wrong way, and I believe that this is already out there, you know, people kind of can do whatever they want, but if the media gets a hold of something that's maybe a little bit negative about Bitcoin in this whole space, we need to be able to say, well, actually, that's not us. Even though it is, you know, like it's kind of, because who are they going to talk to? Who's going to go on Channel 1 News and talk about Bitcoin? They're going to get Easy Crypto, some shitcoiners, or they're going to get, you know, there's no real voice for it. And I don't.
That's exactly right. That's who it's going to be. It's going to be the people that aren't talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, and the problem with Bitcoin at the moment as well is that there's also, I mean, culturally, you know, who puts their heads out, who puts their neck out. It's one of these kind of ongoing things, right? Because you get people come and go, and you get the Bitcoiners of 2017 who are now disgraced Bitcoin cashers or whatever. Like, I'm also conscious of that. You know, I you know, once you put a target on yourself, so I'm kind of like, okay, what does this look like?
I think you might be right, Cody, with regards to market it as Lightning. I think the reason it irked me is because it sort of just comes across as another like altcoin, like it's fresh out the pan. Nobody's heard about it. It's got no history. All right, Bitcoin's got a checkered history, but it's got heaps of history. I think maybe you're right. Maybe up front it's Lightning, and then like Brendan says, they get into the FAQs. We talk about Bitcoin, and then eventually, I mean, we don't even have to be specific about it. The button, you know, the thing will click to go, oh yes, this must be something related to Bitcoin.
But I think I think it's important though, like this idea of an advocacy group has to be a Bitcoin advocacy group. Like, you know, the Lightning Network thing, I think works in terms of, you know, if you're Trojan horsing a payment system into New Zealand, like it works on that level. But there's, you know,
yeah, you're right.
Bitcoin still fails in New Zealand if it gets attacked from all the other angles, right? I mean, I think, you know, I think it's hard to just, if we're really talking about, you know, standing in front of, you know, government employees and you know, having a conversation and getting to the right people and whatever the case may be. I think that part of the strategy can't hide behind Lightning as a face. I mean, I think it literally has to be like, here's some people that know what they're talking about Bitcoin. You should talk to us. Like, it can't be.
And that leads into sort of section 2, which is NZ Bitcoiners, and I agree. I think that there's a need for a kind of a voice, and perhaps this is your website, nzbitcoiners.org, which currently, I mean, it's great at the moment, but can we tighten it up? I've gone ahead and you can see this shared link here, but in terms of just tidying up the design a little bit, a bit of an emphasis on events and things, and I still really want to work through this and kind of I understand what it is that needs to be here, but as an entry point for, say, media and everybody, this is kind of where they go. And then perhaps the Lightning thing is like sits underneath this in terms of organization, because I think there's also room for other things which I'd love to open up to the floor to talk about. But even in terms of fiat rails, I think this is something we were talking about, like how do you get sats back to fiat? You know, what is there a service for that in New Zealand that's not Easy Crypto, you know, in terms of if you are a retailer accepting Lightning, how do you then cash that out? Is there an automated, you know, small business, you know, financial entity that could do that? Is that, an objective for an organization like this? What are the Bitcoin jobs? What's the developer market like? What are where do I go to meet Bitcoiners? What are the projects that are happening and coming out in New Zealand? What's the wind farm and mining developments? There's kind of like all of these other aspects, and Lightning's just one of them. So it's almost like there is a hub, and again, this is still early days for this design, but like a central place for it. Yeah, keen to hear what other people think.
I wouldn't be personally. I don't think I would be covert at all with the Bitcoin, saying that it's Bitcoin. I would say advertise it as Lightning, and then small underneath, built on the Bitcoin network, and then
I agree.
And then a link with what is Bitcoin or something like that.
And that goes back to this NZ Bitcoiners website. So
yeah, something like that. Because otherwise, I could see it. I don't know. Anything covert can be used against you. In my opinion.
I was just going to say the same thing.
That's cool. I mean, I can make that change. I think the bigger question though is, how do we create the ecosystem of resources and information for a New Zealand audience, which we don't really have at the moment. If you search Bitcoin New Zealand, it's pretty much like easy crypto exchanges, a bit of like anarcho capital kind of random stuff, there's not like, oh yeah, this is me, this is what I want to get involved with, oh that's how I meet people. Because that's the other thing about, how do we promote these events that are happening now, Queenstown, Christchurch, Wellington, because that's also an onboarding device. And if it's got a clean, nice design, for context, my background is design and web design, so I can build this stuff. Kind of a branding exercise, I guess. And they don't all have to be on one website. It can be kind of this nebula of different things.
Just need to keep meeting for one thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
All right. That meetup. I saw that chat on the Telegram thread about that meetup. Was it in Queenstown?
Yeah,
last night.
It was good.
That sounded fantastic. 15.
I went to that
with just like that. Yeah. Was that you, Rob, that organised that?
Yeah, that's right. I had 3 guys who were really keen to be there, but were otherwise engaged. It could have been an 18-person meetup, which would be great. And I was stoked that a couple, like a sort of an elderly couple in the 60s, came all the way from Lumsden to be there, which is 100 kilometers away. So that's dedication to the cause. So yeah, it was great. One like rabbit hole Bitcoiner was there, and he just happened upon it because I'd put a free event on Event Finder, which I suddenly thought, oh, how else can I advertise this? But it's quite hard. And I stuffed up. I should have said, hey guys, to find out about the next one, go here, and I didn't do that. So I don't know how I'm going to get those guys back in the same room again. But maybe you can help me with that, Paul, because it sounds like you're onto that.
Yeah. Happy to chat about meetups at all. You make me sound like a seasoned veteran. We've held 2, but yeah, it's gone pretty well. We put a lot of planning and time into it. We focused on getting the people there and making it decent rather than trying to do it really frequently. And we thought maybe we kind of had the thoughts that satellite events would just pop up and kind of encourage that. Like people, like I know there's a small handful of guys met up in Christchurch, and we're going to go down there and do our one in March. But we're like, man, hopefully that grows, because then they'll all come along to this one. And just the more the better. And a meetup with 2 people is still a meetup. Just get a movement going, and it will grow from there, I reckon. Especially in this kind of market, you're not getting all the like the buzz of a bull market, where I would half expect if the crypto market started pumping, you'll start getting tons of people just showing up at these things, I reckon. So to start off with 15 or 18 people, I think is fantastic. And we're over the moon with getting like 30 plus at the first 2 one of ours. We just didn't think we'd get that many to begin with. And I even tried to pad out the first one with a few family and friends and that, which didn't really turn out into anything. But but yeah, we're hoping to just slowly just build that base and just keep it going and keep promoting it and pushing the word out and make it good. And then, it should just grow. And then when that price starts to go up and more people start taking interest, because, everybody I don't know about everybody, but I feel like everybody comes to Bitcoin to make a quick buck, and then they start to learn about it. And like, shit, there's a bit more to this. It's not just about making a buck, you know. The classic, what's that saying? Come for the greed, stay for the revolution.
Yeah.
Sort of attitude. That's definitely a thing, eh? And so if you get them involved and they're just asking about investing and how can I make $1, that's still a starting point, even though it makes you roll your eyes a bit. It's something that gets people engaged, and then once they start learning about it, they realize there's a shitload more to it than that.
You're gonna need people who've been on the ground at these meetups all through the bear cycle to keep things under control when things change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time to build. And one thing I would add to that I've noticed, and I've been thinking about a little bit, there's this concept in like business organization where the structure of an organization is reflected in the way it does things and its code and all sorts. And one of the things I love about the Bitcoin community is that ideas such as consensus, proof of work, doing the hard work, that sort of stuff, it actually comes through in what we do. And so people like us take the time out on a Friday to actually meet and talk and to build. And I think in the bear market, that is even more clear. And so, building the tooling and the culture and everything now, so that when 2024 comes around and the halvening and all that jazz, we've actually got some real fundamentals. And it means we can kind of shape it as well, because who knows what craziness is going to take off, at that point in time. And so if we've actually got a solid baseline of people who can come in and kind of, they've been through this all, then I think it's going to be very helpful.
Yeah, when you learn about the sort of the fundamentals of Bitcoin, it sounds a little bit evangelistic, but you really can live by a lot of that stuff. Like when the three of us got together and sort of said, okay, let's make this BitKiwi thing, and what can we do? How can we get involved in this stuff, and what can we do? We started from the beginning talking about, actually, why don't we stick to the Bitcoin principles in everything that we do? Like, don't trust, verify, that openness, that honesty, proof of work. Like, those things come up all the time and completely abstract and just unrelated things completely. And you can't fail with that stuff. Like, if at any moment you're thinking, oh, should we do this, or should we ask that person this? You think, oh, well, what's the principle from Bitcoin that's going to help me here? And it's surprising how it will do that. It's pretty crazy.
Oh man, interesting. Yeah, no, I agree. Bitcoin meetups are good. So what I would love to just in terms of what everyone here, in terms of a place for this stuff to come together, how do we feel about nzbitcoiners.org as one of, it could be one of many, but as, say, a starting point for a little bit more work around, say, making it clear where meetups are happening, making it more interactive. People can, reach out and add their own meetups and stuff like that. Is that something people think is a good idea? Or
yeah, I'm down with that.
Cool. So what I'm keen to
Awesome,
do, so I'm keen to take that on from a design perspective, and I can build the website out. But I would really love feedback, on every aspect, so that it just comes across as, this is good stuff, and what we want to say, what we want to have on there. So perhaps on the Telegram group, I'll share that design and tweak it out. And I know, Brandon, you've tried to sort of implement my design a little bit, but I'm happy to take that on and build that out.
Yeah.
And I just really hope that this, international visitors come, everyone's starting to come to it, and this is maybe one of the first things they engage with. And so getting our message right and kind of the storytelling side of it. And then, everything from there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. That's what I was when I bought that domain and started playing around with that website, I was hoping eventually enough people would come along who were interested in making the thing happen. So I'm happy to, hand it over, get out of the way, whatever I got to do. In terms of implementing your design, it was mostly me going, can I actually do this? And trying.
You can do anything, man. You're pretty talented. And I love what you're doing. I think there's some opportunity for like a subdomain. So for example, having a pay.nzbitcoiners.org where we can actually demo some like Lightning stuff. I think that'd be really sexy. I don't, maybe like a BTC Pay server or something, however we do that. So I'm keen to take that further. I'm keen to refine the Lightning Network idea as well. That's a bit more of a longer burn. I think maybe, next year, something like that could emerge. So I'll keep working on that.
Why don't we put wallet download links on there too?
Yeah, absolutely. If we can find, what's a good wallet?
Wallet of Satoshi and Moon Wallet, for example.
Yeah, and absolutely. I've got another page I've designed for it, which has got Wallet of Satoshi, so we can
Okay.
we can kind of have those links there. People can get started easily, and kind of any way we can to just make it easy for people to come to it,
Absolutely.
and build that community up.
I think when sorry to interrupt. I think when BitKit goes releases, I think that would be a really good link to have on the website too, because it's been designed by Synonym, and it's been designed from the ground up, like with the idea that complete normies are coming to it. Like they, from what I heard on the podcast with Marty, John was talking about how instead of saying Bitcoin and Lightning, they're like, this is your savings account and this is your spending account.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think that would be a really cool link to include.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that product, man.
the other aspect is I think there's room for literature, and I do a little bit of writing myself, but in terms of actual original thought, I'm just writing up some a review of this Reserve Bank thing at the moment, which I'll post on Stacking News later. I mean, I'm a layman, but it's just kind of my take on it. But I think actually having some resources and original thought for a New Zealand context would be super valuable, and that's maybe a longer term thing as well. But what does Lightning look like for for iwi? What does Lightning and Bitcoin look like for local farmers markets and live in, like stuff like this, which is contextualized and it's not just the kind of the global take, I think would be really valuable and quite newsworthy as well. So if we can get that right, it could be powerful.
The Lightning website, I think it's great to just have that, even if it's just for people like myself who are new to Lightning but really want to use it. So people who are Bitcoiners, it's a good setup, even if it takes a few years to actually catch on. At least it's there. It doesn't have to be some behind the scenes thing. But another thing I was going to suggest is maybe I wouldn't be the one to do this, but if for meetings, if someone is interested in making templates or something for people to lead, I don't know, groups, templates for
PowerPoint, like slideshows and stuff.
Yeah, PowerPoints or something, just to because in my position, I could easily walk someone through a PowerPoint, and if the questions come up, I could answer them quite well. But
I like it. Yeah,
I need something concise and straightforward. So you can set up a meeting in your local town. Hey, this is what Bitcoin is. This is why it's important. Or I don't even know how to word it. That's part of the template,
There's sorry to interrupt again. There's one of the limbs on Twitter. I forget his name. He's posted on his GitHub like 30 or 40 different presentations about Bitcoin for all different audiences.
Oh yeah.
I'll try and find that after we talk and see if I can link him in the Telegram chat.
That'd be great. I mean, so the way I work, I'm sort of a tech, digital guy. I use something called Figma for my design. And so I've just got all of the Bitcoin stuff for this group and for the Telegram lumped in there. So I've got like a cover for the Zoom chat. I'm probably going to mock up some stuff for the podcast and I just kind of dump it all in there. And I'm just really hoping if there's a number of us who can collaborate on that, maybe with a little bit of a direction, we can get some eyeballs on it. And we can reference it, and it kind of is a living document and a living thing. Because there's also that Google Doc which I shared a couple of weeks ago, which people filled out, and I think that already just collating who's working on what and what's happening, and that is super valuable compared to where we were, say, like 6 months ago, which I just that was just me. I didn't know any Bitcoiners in real life.
Yeah,
I know all you guys. So
it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I was in the same place. Like when we James obviously started the Telegram group. This was because I decided one night when I had too many beers that I was going to go find all the kiwis on Twitter I could find and reach out to all of them via DM and just say like, hey, is there anything going on? Like, where can I meet people? And anyway, this is like the difference between, that 12 months ago and now is quite a difference. I'm pretty thankful, I gotta say. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's it's all good. Is anyone else got anything else you want to bring up or discuss? Happy to continue. Oh, James.
I like.
Sorry.
Oh no, you go, Rob.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
So accepting Bitcoin. So I came back from the UK and I bumped into these bridge to Bitcoin guys who were like, Rob, orange pilling people is like high intensity, high effort. Here's what we do. We push the utilization. We get it in the hands of merchants. We get people paying with Bitcoin. Like we accentuate the practicalities, like instant transactions, no chargebacks. And then over there, they've got the Coin Corner exchange, which has a POS app for the exchange, which sells the Bitcoin instantly at point of sale, and then deposits the pound sterling in the merchant's bank account. So they don't have to touch the Bitcoin, they don't have the risk of the Bitcoin. And I was like, holy shit, this is great. So I said about this before on the Telegram chat that we had a few weeks ago. Yeah, I rang up Easy Crypto and I was like, hey, look, can you guarantee me a price for the Bitcoin? Because I don't want to get involved in this exchange thing. And they were like, no, we can't do that. We don't have an API. And then so I rang Coin Corner. I went, can you come to New Zealand and set up your service here? And they're like, no, we're going to South America next. And I was like, oh, damn. So I was thinking I could do it. I could potentially set this up myself. And then what that means is you could go to a retailer and you could say, look, how would you like another payment rail? And so if I set this up, it would be like 0 merchant fees for the merchant. So the Bitcoiner would be paying the exchange fee. And what would happen is it would go to the exchange, it would check the price, it would add on the exchange fee, it would show a denomination in Satoshis, including the fees. The Bitcoiner pays it, and then I make the exchange on the Bitcoin exchange to New Zealand dollars, and then the next end of business or next day they get the New Zealand dollars deposited in their account. So they're basically never more than like 12 to 24 hours away from getting the New Zealand dollars from the sale into their account. So it's essentially a non-custodial service. And then if we set this up, we can say to them, hey, look, you can accept Bitcoin at point of sale, risk-free, 0 fees, have the New Zealand dollars in your bank account, and then we can leave it to them to orange pill themselves. Once a few people have come in, and this is where the meetups come in. So everybody's meeting up, and we're all like, oh, hey, there's a new merchant is now accepting Bitcoin. We all flock down to the merchant. We selfie ourselves, paying, real excited. The merchant's like, oh, hey, it seems to be a bit of excitement about this. Maybe they talk to their suppliers. Oh, hey, would you take Bitcoin if I paid you in it? And then that's how we get the chicken and egg going and the whole kind of like the circular economy. And then I think it's a Trojan horse to getting Bitcoin used. Increase the utility of Bitcoin, and then we facilitate Bitcoin. And then I proposed this at the meetup that I had last night, and I got a little bit of pushback from people who were like, look, I'm a hodler, I hold my Bitcoin, I don't spend it. I was like, appreciate that. And what you can do with your accountant is, to my understanding, not an accountant, you can separate, you can say, look, here's my long-term holdings in this address, and that has a tax status. And then here's my spend and replace Bitcoin. So as Bitcoiners, especially if you've been in the space a while, you need to break out of your OG mold to just hodl and don't spend. We need to actually, if there's a merchant who accepts Bitcoin and dollars and you're a Bitcoiner, you've got to spend your Bitcoin at that merchant, because if you spend your dollars there, you're perpetuating the dollar. And what we need to be doing is perpetuating Bitcoin. So chuck the dollars in the bin. We don't need them anymore. Spend with your Bitcoin and buy it back on an exchange or on Bisq or wherever it is, you Hodl or Peach or any of the new cool decentralized ones that are coming up. So that's where we're at. So I'm hoping to have this service going. I'm interested to hear from anybody here who's interested to help out or join in or in any way, shape or form. I would like it to be a Bitcoin kind of grassroots movement. I don't really want it to be a company, but unfortunately there would be a float, there would be some risk involved. There'd be Bitcoin on a Lightning node that would be taken in payments. So there'd be risk that the node could be hacked, get broken, bugged, anything like that. There'd also be a float on the exchange. So the exchange could go bust. There's also a lot of compliance, and we'd have to KYC merchants on, but that's just standard, and we can get an API to do that. So there'd be the running of the business, which would have to be a business. I can't see there's any other way of doing it. I'd like it to be like a sort of a Bitcoiner sort of approach to it. And I'd also like to somehow give kickback to people who get merchants onboarded around the country, because it'd be too hard for me to fly all the way around New Zealand, go from town to town, asking every merchant if they'd like to, join up, sign up to accept Bitcoins risk-free, 0 merchant fees, get New Zealand dollars in the bank account. but I'd need help from everybody else in New Zealand going around and sort of, you know, worst case scenario, the merchant goes, no, it's a joke, I don't believe in it. And, you know, that's okay. You just walk out, you don't waste any time. It's, yeah, but if there's anybody who's like, oh, I'm sort of, you know, asked a question or something, that's cool. You could hand them the leaflet, which, like you say, it's going to have Cody's awesome message all about the benefits, none of the evangelical stuff. Brilliant. So I think this is how we sort of orange pill New Zealand strategically without any evangelicalness. And Chris from Bridge to Bitcoin said, he said, normalize, don't evangelize. I quite like that message. It's like, just even if you just go into a merchant, you're not there to, you say, do you accept Bitcoin? They say no, you walk out, that's cool. You've brought it up, they've thought about it, it's a touch point. They've got, oh, some guy came in about Bitcoin, you know. If enough people do that going into merchants as Bitcoiners, eventually it just becomes, oh, not yet, but we're thinking about it. Or do you know something about that? You know, that eventually you get to that stage. It's just about sort of repeat touch points. And so, yeah, I think it's quite a holistic kind of thing. I can't do it. If I set up this company to do it, I need heaps of help from Bitcoiners nationwide. I think as a benefit, as a Bitcoiner, you get to spend your Bitcoin then. So maybe that's enough, but maybe there's a way of financially incentivizing the help that I'd need from Bitcoiners signing merchants up. But yeah, anyway, that's where I'm right now. I've been talking to an accountant. I've been doing some technical stuff behind the scenes to make a proof of concept. Yeah, so I'm kind of quite keen to go ahead with this. Like I say, if anybody's keen to be involved or interested to help or anything like that, just give me a shout, hit me up on Telegram and let me know. Yeah,
I'm definitely keen to be involved and also understand the ins and outs of that, Rob. Definitely.
Yeah, what's your name on Telegram, Rob? Is it also Rob Clarkson?
It should be Rob. I believe it's Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I believe this is a really important piece of the puzzle because I think sats to fiat is the kind of missing piece of the puzzle for merchants. Like it's kind of, well, we've got all these sats, what do we do? But if we've got a service and it's legit and it just works, this little thing, I believe that approach. And what I like about this is it's a very pragmatic approach, and I fully agree. Sort of breaking the hodler OG maxi kind of stereotype. Like, yeah, we have to engage with these rails at least for now. We have to at least engage with what's out there. We can't just sort of sit under our rock and hodl. So absolutely getting it in the hands of merchants and like having a clear guide. You know, it's not this like underground thing you got to download from GitHub and make it happen. It's like, no, it's like, we're going to onboard you. We've got these guys, we've got business cards, we've got websites, all legit. And it's like almost like a consultancy, you know, like getting people, and they can DIY it as well. They can read our guides and do it themselves as well. But kind of like, look, just let us do it. Because the thing with the retailers is they don't want to think about this. They pay FPOS providers to do it already. And because I've interviewed a few people about this, you know, they just want to pay $20 a month and not have to think about how the FPOS machine works. They just want it to work. So if we can just do the thinking for them, provide an end-to-end solution, that's great. And I'd go there every day to buy a coffee.
Yep, I completely agree. I think it's really important that we I understand not wanting to spend your Bitcoin, you know, the taxes thing. Rob and I were chatting about this in Telegram. That's a hard one for some people. But we all Bitcoiners like really need to start thinking about, you know, and like I said, this was something that I got triggered to do last year. Like, how do I make this happen? Well, this is the first time I've ever done this. I got bothered by the guy who owns my gym the other day to pay him because you know, that's how he works. He just walks around and says, "Hey, have you paid me lately?" Anyway, so he did that, and I was like, "Would you accept Bitcoin?" And he said no eventually, but we had like a 20-minute conversation in the middle of my workout about it. Like, that's huge. Like, I left that room going like, that was worth it. Like, that was awesome. So, you know, the more we can have that conversation, the more you can sort of make those moments happen where people are thinking about it. You know, and then somebody will eventually say yes, I suppose, or I hope so. But, you know, it was great.
I've started saying, can I get a discount if I pay with money that isn't controlled by the government?
How's that working out for you?
You can say it the other way around as well. You can say,
the dude was like, "Oh wow, that would be a dream." I was like, yeah, bro, we've had it for like nearly 14 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think though, James, coming back to that is that ideological piece, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily always land, and maybe in the old days it would have worked, but I think the FUD in the general media is just so strong now that most people have kind of taken that hook, and so we have a little bit to fight against with that, which is the challenge of the space. But I think being pragmatic and using our skills and our social skills to kind of act change, and ultimately, if it's good, which it is, people are going to accept it. And I know for a fact, if we have this solution that Rob's talking about, if we have some hardware units available, something like what you're working on, Brandon, and we have a website and a clean image, we could walk in. There's a number of places in Wellington that we could see this happening, and relatively soon, I think next year we could have quite a few of these. And as I said, I'd go there every day and spend sats just to support it.
I don't think it's too hard to go from that step when you've got a Bitcoiner who's keen on holding their Bitcoin. It's not that hard to convince them to take the extra step and actually spend some, because it's quite a nice rational argument where you talk about buying some Bitcoin at the moment you're going to spend it or near to it, because we've had a lot of those conversations because of our meetup, where we've set up that system where people are paying Bitcoin, and so I've had that conversation with quite a lot of people, and I sort of convinced them, for the Wellingtonians, that a Lightning wallet's a little bit like a snapper card, where you load it up when you put some money on it when you're going to spend it. You don't put thousands of dollars on your snapper card and just leave it there. And so I tell people, if you're going to come to the meetup on the day, buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, send it straight to your Lightning wallet, and bring it to the meetup, and the price fluctuations are not going to be large enough for that to make a huge difference on that day, and I know myself and the other two, that's how we operate as well. Like, we try and use it with each other as much as possible. Like, we go out for dinner or something, and I'll grab the bill, and then I'll be like, you owe me so much in sats, please, like, every time. And, I'm always carrying a little balance in the Lightning wallet, but I never touch my cold storage stack. I actually load that directly by purchasing and sending. I use Wallet Satoshi just because it's so nice and easy. And you can just create the on-chain receive address there. And so I'll buy some from Easy Crypto or whatever and just send it straight there, and then just spend it out $100 or $200 all the time. And when you've got someone who already understands Bitcoin and is holding a stack, that conversation's not that difficult. It'll be a lot harder with someone else, but it seems to work quite well.
Yeah, that works for me mentally as well. Like, I've got my cold storage; it's sitting there. Every time my hot wallet gets low, my Lightning wallet gets low, I'm like, oh, I guess I got to buy more, and buy more than I need to. So it's a good mental exercise. And, more you get your cash flow going in Bitcoin, the better it feels.
Yeah, and wallets come in different forms, and I think that's where the Lightning network is kind of a paradigm shift. So the OG Bitcoin is like hodl forever, but I mean, with Lightning, I'm earning sats with my shitty posts on Stacking Use, so I'm earning sats on Fountain. So I'm happy to spend that stuff, and I'm happy to top it up, with mining and stuff. Like, it's play money, it's not the mortgage, it's not the big cold storage stack, and I think that's a shift that is obviously we're all sort of aligned with that, which that's great.
An interesting thing, Rob, I saw a while back, and I sort of follow the Coin Corner accounts and see what they're doing, and I don't know exactly completely all the technicalities how it works, but I did see a while back they actually built functionality for spend and replace somehow. Now, I know Coin Corner is more about receiving, and so I imagine you must be able to use any Lightning wallet to spend at a merchant who's using Coin Corner. But I saw them talking about, and I think I retweeted because I love the sound of it, where they'd actually built some code, a feature somehow where if you spent some Bitcoin, it automatically in the background purchased that amount of Bitcoin and re-added it to your account. Which sounded really awesome. So I know Coin Corner is about merchant receiving, so I'm not quite sure how that marries up logically, because I didn't know that there would be someone spending using a Coin Corner app or something, but might be worth looking into that, because they did actually build something. I'm pretty sure it's been released, which I thought was really awesome. I was like, man, so you don't even deplete your stack when you go to spend Bitcoin. You can set it up, I guess, with your credit card or whatever. So that I'll buy something here, $20, boom, it puts $20 more Bitcoin back into your account as well at the same time. So you're spending and replacing on the spot. So that means you're not subject to the volatility of the market whatsoever either.
They were an exchange first. So they just, I mean, it seems like they just took this this strategic route of sort of developing these onboarding tools for merchants and payers, and you know, it built some really cool stuff doing it. But yeah, ultimately, you know, they were a place to buy and sell Bitcoin before they were doing any of that. So
a little anecdote as well for everyone today. I met up with a fellow Bitcoin friend for lunch, and we went to a burger place in Wellington here, and the FPOS machine was down. And I asked the lady, I was like, oh, so how often does this happen? She said, so 4 times this year. And I was like, oh, so does it cost you a bit of money? She's like, yeah, man, I can't process any orders, nothing happens. And I took a little photo, because they had to like write out their bank account on the thing and get people to like use their app. And I was like, okay, yep. And I was just looking at my friend, I was like, imagine if we had this like decentralized thing that, you know, like that would just fix this. So yeah, that was interesting. Cool. Anyone else got anything else you want to sort of bring up or share at this point?
I think I got to jump away shortly.
I'm feeling like we should maybe look to wrap this up. I would like to know though, I think it's been really productive. Is Friday's a good time for people usually? Like is this a good slot, sort of 7, 8
Yeah,
PM?
it is for me. I actually screwed up because I made time to dial in, and then I came on and I saw you guys started at 7. I thought it was 8. What the hell?
No, apologies.
I literally missed the first hour out of stupidity, so my apologies there.
Friday's good for me.
Yeah, 7 or 8
better than
PM.
Wednesday. Yeah, 7's good too. Yep.
Yeah, Brandon, I know you got a bit of stuff to do usually, but yeah,
I got children that go to bed at 8 o'clock. So
yeah, no, all good. Well, look, I might see, I might wrap it up here for this one, but perhaps in the new year, or maybe see how we go. I've got a few things to do next week, but I'm happy to continue this. I think Zoom's worked really well. The audio is great. And perhaps in the new year we can make this into a thing, maybe even weekly, once we get a bit of momentum, because I feel like things are moving pretty quickly. So if we can sync up with a core group, it could be really useful, if that sounds good.
I'd suggest late January, after everyone's back from holidays and focusing back on the real world.
Yeah. Late Jan. Okay, I'll book that in if that sounds good. Cool. All right. Maybe we'll leave it there, everyone. Thank you for your time. And I'll be processing this and I'll share it on Fountain eventually.
I was just thinking,
I'll stream you some sets.
Yeah, sorry.
I was thinking lastly with the Bitcoin Lightning topic.
Yeah.
Eventually, I believe like everyone will have to be on layer 2. Like there won't be, you know.
Yes. Layer 2 and layer 3. No, absolutely. And the banks will be running it. It's all going to happen, James.
Because it's got the capacity.
Yes, it does.
For billions.
No, all good. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll wrap it up there. I appreciate your time, and we'll reconnect, if not in person, late January for another Bitcoin NZ chat.
Cheers, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.